When referencing influential forms of cinematography, Silence of the Lambs is often mentioned for its creative shots and visual metaphors. The three-season adaptation of the Hannibal enterprise should be held up to an arguably similar standard. Brian Fuller's Hannibal showcases symbolism through sounds, objects, and language that reflect the relationship between good and evil as an archetype of one whole in the change of two foil characters. To understand these symbols, one must first take into account the plot. Hannibal, like the movies, is adapted roughly from 4 books: Hannibal Rising, Hannibal, The Red Dragon, and Silence of the Lambs. The show follows Will Graham, formerly Clarice, a temporary FBI consultant with an empathy disorder that allows him to sympathize with and get in the mind of case assailants. He's utilized by Jack Crawford to track down cannibalistic killers. However, his unofficial FBI-appointed therapist, Hannibal Lecter, begins to be the subject of these cases. No one on the team believes Will's accusations, and Hannibal uses this to his advantage, framing Will. In his means to get back at Hannibal, after Will's charges eventually drop due to void information, he finds the lines between good and evil blur. He will do anything for justice, but that doesn't mean he's supposed to enjoy doing it.
You and I have begun to blur.
One of the key symbols that kick off the first episode is Will's glasses and the use of the pendulum. These together represent Will's psyche and provide the audience with a visual shift in his headspace. The pendulum's sound and bright flash guide a transition from the real world to what Will imagines the killer's doing. The glasses are a nod to putting up a mask. Will takes them off every time he empathizes with killers, and oftentimes in session with Hannibal when they're discussing his psyche or cases. They're on for most of the first season, a little of the second season, and only briefly in the third season, when Will tries to push away the shift in his supposed morals. The next visual metaphor has 2 parts. Several animal motifs are often used throughout the show. During the first season, the stag appears. This creature follows Will throughout the first 2 seasons until its demise at the end of season 2. Some fans have speculated it is a manifestation of Abigail, one of the murderer's daughters that Will feels he owes. However, it can also be seen as his last attachment to innocence and good society. It's his last act of avoidance toward his divine self. The Wendigo that resembles Hannibal is the converse of this creature. This figure appears shortly before the stag dies throughout the last 2 seasons, often being tormented by Will. It represents the start of his moral shift, where he starts to justify theoretical acts of evil as good due to the demise of evil forces. The back and forth debate between morals is present throughout the whole show. References to the Bible and mythology are constant in the dialogue. Many characters repeatedly speak of a reckoning and becoming. This is usually referring to revenge, although this language can fall back on several archetypes.
The union of opposites, good and evil, to become one's truest form is reflected in both the Season 2 and 3 finales. The knife in the Season 2 finale bridges the gap between the 2 main characters.
Do you believe you could change me the way I've changed you?
I already did.
As their blood combines, in the Season 3 finale, Will succumbs to his evil side and Hannibal finally allows someone in to truly understand him. Some hint at this also being an allegory for queerness, as the fall could represent how self-acceptance of one's identity in the past, and oftentimes now, is seen as divergence or deviance from society. Will's choice to remove himself and Hannibal from society was also the acceptance of his true self. This could be argued given a lot of the biblical references in a context where cannibalism and queerness are both sins or evil. Will's blunt question to Bedelia, "Is Hannibal in love with me?" doesn't hurt the theory either. Overall, Brian Fuller's adaptation of Hannibal is a piece of media flooded with rich metaphors, allegories, and symbols. Through the use of Will's glasses and the pendulum, the stag and Wendigo, and the becoming of Hannibal and Will, viewers are given the opportunity to think deeper. Considering these are only some of the many symbols, I think it's fair to say Hannibal is a show that can be admired for its symbolism.